Welcome back, everybody, to the Wise Wealth podcast. We've got an awesome guest on the show. Excited to see where this one goes. I'd like to welcome Philipp Buschmann to the podcast. I'm going to hand over to Philipp and give yourself an introduction about your background so everybody can find out a little bit more about you.
Thank you, Samuel, for having me. Yes, I am Philipp. I'm a founder, one of the founders of AAZZUR. I'm Austrian, but I left Austria when I was 18 to become an entrepreneur and go to school, tech background really. And AAZZUR is an embedded finance company that allows our clients, which are usually mid-sized companies, to embed financial services about 10 times cheaper and 4 times faster than if they did it themselves. So we remove the complexity and allow and democratize the access to embedded banking, embedded wealth, embedded cards. And it's really a toolbox that people can use. So they only need a product manager and a business manager instead of a whole team to deploy embedded finance and the promise of embedded finance into their products.
So how did you get involved in that? What's sort of your background?
Yes, so first thing I did was learn how to program when I'm 9. Didn't have a girlfriend until I was 16. Went to college and continued doing it. Actually, didn't study computer science, but did a lot of computer science courses. And being that's how you got the job at the time. And my first projects were already financial services projects when I'm out of uni. And so the subject area chose me. Yeah. And so, worked on the banking products of Sparkasse, Barclays, State Street Bank, trading systems and all that. So somehow, I guess I'm the right kind of geek for this kind of business.
Okay, and so let's talk a little bit more about the products. So is there anything in the pipeline that's exciting to you that's that the future holds? Like where's the business going?
Yeah, so the times are really good. I think that if you look at all the different fintech products that are out there, they are reaching maturity, right? So the nature of AAZZUR is that we work with a lot of API providers in the different spaces, card, wealth, ETFs, whatever. And when we got started, there definitely didn't seem to be all of the products quite ready for the market. But today you can build a private bank for about a tenth of what it might have cost just 10 years ago. What I'm particularly excited in is the interoperability, meaning being able to use one provider to pay another provider. I find it really exciting that single sign up and single login are all becoming normal, meaning that my KYC data can transport. Other things which were not so seamless are becoming more seamless. And that means that a lot of companies can now start benefiting from providing loyalty products or wealth as a loyalty, for example, in their products, which was previously just a completely unreachable goal for most players.
Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting. Definitely times are changing within that. Do you think that open banking has been a big contributor to that side of things?
Back in 2018, people would have said, what's open banking? This is never going to have any use cases. I think that today we quite appreciate it, right? Applying for loans or even just checking your age or being able to pay by bank account instead of card. These all innovations came with open banking. And I think that has been a success and is becoming even more a success as time goes forward.
And I suppose from your side, I would say I'm interested to know more about your entrepreneurial journey. What does that look like? Sort of what's your mission? How did you get here to achieve this? From an entrepreneur side of things, is this the a single business that you've got? Have you got multiple interests in different businesses? It'd be quite great to find out a little bit more about yourself and how you've grown as well.
Yeah, so when I grew up, I was 7 years old when my parents got divorced, and my mom left with pretty much no money and became an entrepreneur. And from not being able to have enough money for food, she went to have 50 houses, hotels, nightclubs, and everything. Yeah. And so
We need to get your
in
mum on the
the
podcast.
her story is a movie. Um, and so I saw the success, and then I saw how my mom never changed her mind about the market. So when the market changed, she lost it all, almost
Okay.
all of it, right? So I really have seen that entrepreneurial journey, and so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I always wanted to be a tech entrepreneur. And so I left Austria because the word entrepreneur didn't exist at the time. Went to America, worked for a startup which was Razorfish. I was like 100 employees, first 100 employees or so. Saw that scale to 5,000 people. Went to business school, and after business school, I decided that I would be a strategy consultant which was really good to learn how large companies think and all that, but I didn't want to do PowerPoints for the rest of my life. And the moment I could, I became back an entrepreneur. I've done it a few times. I've taken a company public. This is probably my fifth or so company. Also seen it go sideways. Yeah, so all of that. But how Azure.
Which just to stop to butt in there, what was the company that you took public? What was that about? Was that
So I was more in a company building role. Somebody from Switzerland wanted to build a company in the oil and gas space,
okay?
and uh, I was working at a consulting company, and they said, "Listen, do you want to write us a business plan?" I went to America to investigate and meet partners and projects and put together a team, and the business plan got funded, and we drilled for oil. We found oil, and the company was profitable, I think, within the first year or
Okay.
two. It's a long time now. I don't remember everything.
Yeah.
We were lucky to get the CEO of Shell to be one of our advisors,
Right.
and then the company did an RTO onto one of the lower boards of Nasdaq, and so it just went really fast.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I thought I was very smart and everything, but to be honest, I was just very, very lucky because oil went from, I think, 40 to over $100 a barrel. And when something like that happens, you can look very smart very easily.
Or maybe you're just not giving yourself the credit. I mean,
Right place, right time, timing. Timing is everything. It's so
did you get
important.
the CEO as the advisor yourself, or was that someone else of
No,
Shell?
I did, since I don't know anything about, or didn't know anything about oil and gas, I hired people who did know about oil and gas, um, and worked there for a while, and eventually exited the businesses, that business, much due to cultural differences, and some other things, and then decided to start another company.
Well, I mean, I would say it's partly talent, but I suppose when you've got something rallying like that, it's you get a lot of eyeballs on those businesses that have got access to oil, right? So I think it's a right time, right place environment. So I suppose after that, where did you go with that? That must have been quite nice. You exited a business, it was a success. Where do you go from there after the oil and gas industry?
I thought I could repeat it with a bet, doing everything smarter, better, with more equity in it myself and stuff. But the second company, we sold the assets for pennies on the dollar because the oil price went from then 150 down to 30, right? So saw exactly something where everyone's a genius a couple years ago, and then everybody's is a bit of an idiot. And I'm seeing a little bit of like that in FinTech over the last years as well. So it's a very familiar feeling. Um,
Did that sort of
and
like hit strings with like what you saw from your mother, as in she built this big thing and then it came crashing down and you had that huge win and then you had a loss and you're sitting there thinking, am I repeating this sort of process?
Yes and no. The difference is that I can change my mind about where the market is. And the reason I think what I learned there, and when you see it and feel it, is you apply this to the company. Hopefully you can learn, right? And at AAZZUR, we we saw this market change, and a lot of companies are not around anymore. So we never, we had investors say, oh, spend your money faster, hire more people, grow quicker, you're not ambitious enough. And had we done that, we'd be gone, right? So we were always had an approach of being aggressive, but at the same time rational. What if these contracts don't come in the way they're supposed to? What if the market turns? What if we can't raise money as fast as we think? And so I think we learned something out of that. But the other thing I learned is if you are in a business like, say, oil and gas trading or gold or whatever it is, your entire existence is one price that's out there that you have no influence on. And the reason I'm back in tech and back in banking tech is because the illusion maybe, but I think it's also true that it's more about what you bring to the table and what you can achieve.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And so that company you sold pennies on the dollar. After that, where'd you go from there?
Then I thought, oh, so I've seen it a few things now. Now I'll be kind of a co-founder as a service. So I said, if I found people who wanted to found things and I wanted to be the co-founder, and have 2 or 3 of these companies at the same time. I thought it's all too binary. Either company works or it doesn't work.
Mhm.
So I did that and it made money. It was, it paid the bills. But I learned some very important things, which is that founders don't want to listen to their co-founder, typically, because they're founders. And especially a co-founder as a service is very hard to really make people do the things you think they should be doing. And so I said, okay, actually, this is okay. It pays the bills, but it's not good enough. Like I'm the kind of person I need to be a founder or a co-founder, and I need to be. And then after some time, I met Martin and Richard, and then we did AAZZUR.
And now, from a sort of business interest perspective, is that your only business that you're working with?
Day in, day out, from morning till night, weekends, holidays, whatever. Yeah. The way that you imagine it.
And I suppose, like, I just want to sort of highlight the journey of this going forward. Like, do you have a plan for this, like your other businesses, for a bigger exit? What's the sort of future hold for you in that respect?
Yeah. So I think what we first wanted to be, and Martin, Richard, and I met on a previous project. I've known Richard for a very long time, but we met, and what we first wanted to be is a challenger bank for internationals in Europe, a bit like Moniz, maybe, and but Moniz for Germany, say, yeah. Um, and what we learned there was that you need to monetize the customer because you can't charge anything or charge very little for the accounts. And so you have to monetize the customer. So you have to build a platform across different fintech products. And so we wanted to build this platform across different fintech products to monetize a customer base. So a little bit like Starling Bank that has this, like fintech products and add-ons. And on the other side, a little bit like money. So that's what we wanted to do. It was a lot to do. And investors didn't believed in the market maybe, but didn't believe that the team was the right team to do it. They looked at us, they said, look at you guys, look at the team photo. These are nerds, geeks, and not B2C marketing people. You're not cool enough. Do not think you're gonna sell B2C products. You're not that person. But one of our mentors says, this thing over here, this thing that can plug into different fintech products and then plug into, say neobanks or other products, that I think could be something. And we in 2019, 2020, we pivoted to that. And a year later, that was called FinTech Orchestration and Embedded Finance. The names didn't exist yet. And as soon as the names started existing, we could start selling it, because before we couldn't describe it.
And so now you said that, you know, people aren't interested in nerds like us. Are they now interested in you, or do you have a marketing team that does that side for you now?
Took us a long time to learn that people don't care about the technology, they care about what the business does for them. So that was we were at the FinTech Innovation Lab out of Accenture London about 18 months ago or so. And that's when the penny dropped. And they said, like, listen, if you want to sell this to people, don't tell them about your technology. Tell them about what they can do with your technology and why they want to do that. And then I learned that different industries, so embedded finance can bring you about 10% in 2 or 3 years on the bottom line. And that's a really big lever to pull for a relatively small investment, especially with AAZZUR. So that's a really cool thing. But an airline might do like an embedded banking product for loyalty, right? While on the other hand, let's say a payday lender will do it to reduce defaults. So the product may be very similar, but the KPIs that you manipulate to the customer are very different. So that's why if you have a horizontal solution, you have to talk vertical use cases, and these vertical use cases have to speak to the customer in the language that they understand. So once we realized that, I said, okay, well, where do we want to focus, and who do we want to be doing business with, and who do we talk to, and that's when it really started clicking.
So ultimately, you're sort of selling efficiency in their business back to them, if that makes sense. So we can implement this, and it's going to improve your efficiency by X, Y, Z, and put sort of like KPIs in play of how that works. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So for example, so we work with a lender, for example, where the money used to be paid out to an account and then paid back, right? And in the future, the account will be paid on an account they can control to some degree, and where the salary also comes into. So that will totally change the game on what the default rate will be for that lender for the loans that they make. So they could have done that before. They could have gone to Modular, or they could have gone to Edenred, AAZZUR. You know, there's a ton of suppliers. But if you want to do that kind of embedded banking end to end yourself, that's a £2 million investment, maybe 1 to 2. Might take you 12 to 18 months end to end. And so who is going to do that? And that means you have a team of 10 people you have to hire. You have to understand the APIs. You have to understand the fintech space. When in reality, all they want is that account. And so when they come to AAZZUR, they can do this for a tenth of the price, 4 times as fast. And they don't need to understand the tech at all. If I may put this in an analogy, imagine if every builder, plumber, welder, electrician would have to understand how the engine in his van worked just to buy a van. So in fintech, we expect that the buyer understands the cylinders, right? Even the contracts kind of require it. You know, what's AML, what's this, how you're going to do transaction monitoring, what's your fair use policy, what's all that, you know, and you need to understand what all these things are. When in reality, all you really want is the van.
Yeah. So it's just making sure that you're the one behind the cogs. You understand the business. We can develop. We can deliver what you're wanting, and you won't need to understand all the cogs. Leave that side to us. We can do it at a tenth of the price, and we can overall improve your business. That's basically along those lines. So interestingly enough, how do these companies find you? And you know, because it's it's like quite a bespoke thing to look for, right? So they can't Google. What does it, you know, what are they Googling to find you, or how will they find you? Is it word of mouth? Is it client success stories? Is it that side of things, or is it your marketing team?
They definitely don't type in www.aazzur.com. That's definitely not how they find us, and that took the longest to figure out.
Because I'm sure they
Because
probably
if
manage your Microsoft first, don't they?
yeah, well, that there's a similarity in the name, but far enough away for legal reasons that that we should be okay. But the comparison has been made, although it's different things. We like the color blue. It's open sky. You know, it's you know, it's a beautiful color as well. But how do we find them? Well, we realized that the state of fintech is a little bit now to switch metaphors, how a markets used to operate back in the Middle Ages. So there's one person who sells meat, the next person who sells cheese, the next person who sells, you know, bread, right? And if you were to cook anything, you would go to these suppliers and you understood who they were. And oh, yeah, you know, Samuel, he has the best tomatoes, right? So we'd go over there and get those. And then we'd make the dish, call it a pizza, right? And that's how everybody made food. There were no restaurants, right? After some time, there are going to be players that say, look, you don't want to go to the market. All you really want is the pizza, right? So we are kind of the next generation, what came after the food market. The
Yeah.
food market is established. We curate it. We buy the ingredients. We bake it. We serve pizza. Yeah. And that's the natural evolvement. And I think that that's the way that a lot of businesses that don't want to build their own kitchens, that don't want to have their own cooks, will operate. And that's the bet we're making. We are betting that embedded finance is currently only employed by people who understand kitchens and who
Yeah.
have their own cooks. And the reason I think I'm right is because this was also true in the 99 for people who built websites,
Yeah.
right? Tech companies were building websites and maybe some booksellers and maybe some airlines, they got it and they had the team. But when I pitched to Hugo Boss in the year 99 whether they should have a website, they said, nobody's going to buy clothes online and we don't want to have a website team and it's way too expensive and I don't want it. Does Hugo Boss have a website today? Yes. Yeah, of course. But so times just change. The way people consume things just change and we're part of that change.
What do you think? Just talking of that front, how do you see sort of AI coming into your sector, and are you implementing that, or is it something that you're sort of keeping at arm's length at this moment in time?
So I'll answer the question and I want to know what you think as well, because
Okay.
it's really one where I have. So I think AI is going to change everything the way will change society. Yeah. Um, and it's happening at a very fast pace. And the question is, where does it apply? And I think it's going to apply to things such as that we don't really want to do, like investing. So I think my wife and I were having dinner yesterday. She's like, don't you think we're going to have an AI assistant that's going to help us do all our shopping? Like, you know, I want to buy this, this, and this, but I don't
Yeah.
want to go to Amazon and compare all of these things. It's like, isn't that a great idea? I'm like, it's a great idea, Lena. I'm sure it's people are working on it. Yeah. So, and I think that's probably how we're going to shop. We're going to say, like, I want some new shoes. And then they're gonna be like, well, based on what you know about you, this is, I think, the shoes that you want. Shall I go get it for you? Right. And I think when it comes to investing, it's even something we're more scared of, or wealth, or retirement, or all of these topics, where AI is going to play a huge role,
Yeah.
especially just in data collection. Like imagine writing a will. There's people who work on that, but the biggest problem is getting the information in a digital format out of people that don't know how to use a computer. Like my mother, like
Yeah.
it's like, mom, where's what? You know, it's like, can you please type that? She's like, she can barely operate an SMS. Yeah.
Yeah.
So AI can really change the way we interface with this and help us make better decisions. That's what I think. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's initially going to be more from I mean, you must be, are you utilizing AI in coding now? Like, are you saying, write this to save me all this lines of code, and then you copy and paste and you put your next instruction in, or?
They use the co-pilots, yeah, um, for integrations. We are testing. We are not doing it yet, but we're testing whether we can feed uh, integration API documentation into an AI to help us write the microservices that we need in order to communicate. But it is, at the end of the day, financial software, so we try to shy away from it, knowing that it is still error prone, but it's definitely helping us implement a bit faster. I would say that that's definitely true.
Yeah.
We also provide a layer of, since we are in the, middleware and the front end as a service, um, that middle layer connects to everything that's, all the different services. So and understands the behavior of the consumer. So if you have AI use cases and you need to know what the consumer is doing, what the bank account is doing, what's happening in the ETF, and all of that is a holistic picture, then you'd need to have what AAZZUR has, because we have that layer across and the view across the different things. It's the only place that has the data that's necessary to know what the customer is doing. So we are an enabler to AI use cases. We use AI. We believe in AI. But we are not, say, an AI-driven algorithmic trading platform or give advice. We are not in any way a broker of such services. But if you want to understand your user and you need all the data, then we are definitely the one that can enable that.
Yeah, so I think from the first sort of time I saw, I think Adidas have implemented AI into their website, because it's like when I buy trainers from them, and let's say I buy 5 or 6 and I look at another pair, they would say, based on your previous products purchase, you would be a size 9 in this shoe. And it's like that's one of the simple pain points of like, I wonder if I'm going to be a 9, am I going to be a 9.5, or I'm going to be an 8.5, which, and it filters all of that out based off of their own product, your purchases, and what you're doing. So when you then bring that over to investment, I think it's a very interesting. I think the next 2 years is where we'll find out exactly where the investment side sits. I don't think it's going to be longer than that. I think that if you can see what your risk appetite is, I think it will be a broker that implements it first, because like if you go and buy stocks on a frequent basis, it could do the same thing that Adidas is doing. But like, right, they bought this company. What sector was it in? It was in tech. What does that risk appetite? What does the volatility look like? What's the returns look like? How long were they in these positions for? And it'll be based off of your previous investments. Have you explored looking at this stock or this ETF because it meets the previous criteria of what you're doing? And I think it will be like suggestive in like suggesting maybe this is for you, because a broker makes money from buying and selling, and so if they can put something on your plate that you're going to be interested in, it's going to be in their benefit overall. But also, from your point, the hours that you take to research, if you are a keen investor like me, and I invest a lot of time and effort into the stock market, looking at financial reports and so on and so forth, they'll be looking at, well, what similarities are there? And I think it'll be that side before fully automated. I think there was a mortgage
Something
company.
like you invested in Tesla, but you should really also invest in this electric bike company, and it's much sooner. So why don't you check it out? That'd be I think you're right. The power of that is a bit scary.
Yeah, I agree, because it could be like, you just bought Tesla at this price. However, this company is where it has better financials than Tesla, has better PE ratio than Tesla. And this is equivalent to where Tesla was 10 years ago, for example. This could be the next Tesla. Is that of interest to you? And obviously, if you then follow up on that, then the AI is going to know that, oh, this person's actually interested in small cap, mid cap, that are getting into that area of interest. But I also think from I short companies quite heavily, penny stock companies that are complete rubbish companies. They have got, small cash runways. They're running out of cash. They had some hype around them. Maybe they was the next big vaccination that there was, and they've had emergency FDA approval, but no one's really interested in them. They're burning money like nobody's business, and they've rallied by like 500%. I'm going to short sell you because I know that you're not going to be around in 6 to 12 months because you're not going to get another round of funding. And that for me is like that takes time to look into who are these rubbish companies, what don't they like, what am I looking for in my metrics, and if there was simple filters that came into play and been like, you should be looking at this one, this meets the exact criteria that you look at. I think from an efficiency point of view, it's going to be very easy to transition into that because ultimately, if someone knew exactly what I was looking for and said, Sam, you want to check this out, that's just saved me an analyst that's produced all that information because it's done it all instantaneously for you. So I think it's scary, but I also think it's really interesting. But I'm then also thinking from that side, it also becomes very much the whole market becomes algorithmic, which means that there's a lot of it makes it very predictable when there's catastrophes that happen because the whole market's just going to have a complete sell-off if something
That happened,
doesn't.
right?
Yeah,
There was this blip happened once.
yeah. There's a guy called the Hound of Hounslow actually in the UK, and he basically created an algorithm to falsify um, purchasing buying levels through orders, and then when price came close to it, the orders would automatically cancel and move down, and he caused a flash crash in the market. So I think we'll see a lot more of that when AI is more involved, and also I think like um, I create algorithms that are data learning, but it's like it can't do it in lifetime. It's historical data that it takes into account. So, for example, if you look at um, how the pound against the US dollar reacted when Brexit happened, there was no data to take that into consideration of what should happen. So when we then
Yeah,
in the future, it's going to create these very interesting learning curves. So I think it's an interesting time. I think for now, AI is going to get rid of sort of your blog writers, your story, who updates the company blogs and who puts in content because you can literally just right now, go write an interesting blog that's SEO optimized on open banking, taking into account these last 5 articles and produce nice content.
yeah. So a couple things. So interestingly, my brother is a currency trader, and
Okay.
when Brexit came, he was up for like 48 hours, and I talked with him, and he said, "Dude, nothing happened like how we thought it's gonna happen."
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's supposed to go down, it goes up, it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways. Why does it? What's the volumes are great, but who is doing what?
yeah,
So that was definitely an interesting time. I think on the AI side, like yes, we of course use it to write documentation and blog posts and that kind of thing, but it's still for that we still use for things that we want people to read, we still use writers
yeah,
because at the moment um, this so many people do it that it becomes boring in the sense of the tone of voice is boring. And I'm sure that this is gonna be fixed in a few years. But at the moment, you can just this is, and then you're just like, oh, it's ChatGPT. I don't want to read it
yeah,
anymore. I think that the authenticity really matters to humans, and I think that you don't. I saw an excellent comic. There was a guy who put a couple bullet points into an email and said to AI to make it look nice, and the email was like 4 lines, and it became like 40 lines, right?
yeah.
And on the other side of the receiving side, there was an AI that took the 40 lines and put it back into the 4 bullet points. Said, "Oh," and both said, "Oh, I really love AI."
Yeah, it's true. People don't like to be like bulk marketed to, do they? They like the personal touch. So it'd be very interesting to see how that comes across. Like I've used AI from a research point of view, as in take these 5 documentations, summarize all the pros and cons for this stock,
Mhm.
and any areas of risk that I should be looking at across all documentation. So basically, reducing the amount of time I have to read something to highlight all of the points. So I think from like a quickness of digesting information, it's very useful in that sense.
Yeah, or RFPs. look at this website, look at this website, look at that website, look at the RFP, and can you please write me this RFP? And then it gets it 70%. But that's, you know, what would take me 3 days is taking it 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
that's a huge thing.
Like I at this moment in time, I own a news company called London Daily News. We have about 150,000 monthly readers on the news company, and I always thought like it's growing really well. We have some super cool experts that write for us as contributors and things like this. And I just thought, wouldn't it be so cool to build an AI news site that literally pulls everyone else's news? Okay, so it goes to the Daily Mail, goes to the Sun, it goes to the Express, and it basically takes any stories that are covered in a similar way and then rewrites it in a unique manner that's non-biased to each of those individual ones, because it's unique news written in a non-biased way and producing it completely automated and still getting the news out there at exact time. It'll probably take like a minute tops for it to pull 4 or 5 articles, go, yeah,
That's awesome.
and then it goes non-biased, there you go, out you go. Because so many different news outlets right now are so biased on their opinion of what they're writing from. And it would be so nice just to take this as a non-biased news site of this is the actual news.
This is the midpoint from all of the, that's the, yeah, no, so is that what you do? Is that what I can see?
So London Daily News, no, London, that's what I want to do. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
At the moment, we've got londondaily.news, and we've got so many writers. We produce maybe 50, 60 articles every single day. And I was like, this would just be amazing to take what we've already built, but build in AI to it to create non-biased articles, because I'm very specific just from my investment and background in investing. I don't like reading news, and I especially don't like reading political news, because you can look at 2 different websites and it's like, let's take Donald Trump, hero, criminal. It's like that's the two extremes, and it would just be
I
nice
think
to.
it's there to I think it's a bit there to, I mean, people have their opinion and I don't want to get into that, but I think there's also, I find on both sides of the divide, uh, these talking points that you get across 5, like if you turn on like the talk shows, the American talk shows, they'll have the same joke. Like, how did they come up like with the same joke, like 3 days in a row across 5 different programs? And on the right, you'll see the same, right? But as to the news site, there is a startup out there that where it's a news aggregator, and if you click on the article, it says, based on all the other articles on this thing, this is where on this, it has, I think, 4 dimensions. This is where this is on these 4 dimensions, based on articles on this topic. So just so you know, and based on the other articles, this newspaper here has this kind of reliance factor.
That is interesting.
But it's still only what's between the goalposts, right?
Yeah.
This is Noam Chomsky's point, like create 2 goalposts, create as much conversation within these 2 goalposts, but don't discuss what's outside this goalpost.
Yeah.
So I think we should also be aware of that, right?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've got to explore, that's for sure, because it's you don't need hundreds of writers to do it. You can create the unique story and you can make sure it's non-biased. And overall, I think that's what the world is craving right now. Actual news that's not got an underlying, oh yeah, by the way, this person is actually backing the Democrats this year. Or look at the Murdochs, Rupert Murdoch, and when they used to back either the Conservatives or the Labour Party, they would completely smear campaign the other party, and actually you're just reading complete smear. You're not reading anything that's relation. So yeah, we don't cover politics on our news site because it's like we just want just business news at this moment in time. But I definitely think there'll be a great outlook to move down that avenue. So I think AI is exciting. I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think the valuations on AI businesses are crazy. I've had a few
That's true.
podcasts around that, and it's like, if you're an AI, if you can code or write AI, then your value is something stupid. I think an AI engineer is like add something silly like 5 to 10 million pounds to your valuation of your business just because you have them and they're in high demand. So yeah, it's
Well, it's good to understand how it works. Like when I was in college, I wrote bots that with AI and stuff, right? Like little bots that try to kill other bots. And my co-founder wrote a self-learning organic uh, code to understand sign language. Yeah.
okay.
So we have that skill here at AAZZUR. Please give me the valuation increase. Yeah.
You just need to sign
We are
in.
also very good at prompt engineering, so that's we should add that one too. But I think it's true AI is going to be that there's going to be not so many winners as you think. So I think overall, investors are going to take a big bath on the investments they're going to make in AI because they don't know who the winner is, and I don't think it's going to take so many. So I think there's a lot of money going there, but there's not so many winners going to go there. I think that the good thing about why I like fintech in general, and yes, valuations were too high 2, 3 years ago. But what I like about it is from an investor perspective, um, it there aren't as many natural monopolies. People are more. There's a lot more companies that can bring something to the table that's unique, that can't be so easily copied.
Yeah,
For example, at AAZZUR, one of the biggest moats is our relationships. This is
yeah,
not only coding. You need like all these 50 people behind me on the wall. You have to build relationships with each one of them.
yeah,
And that takes time. So I think that there can be quite a lot of companies that can be worth 1 billion or 2 or 3, instead of one that's worth 500 billion or whatever. And of course, everybody wants to chase the 500 billion one instead of the 3 billion one. But I think that as an investor, where you're investing, say, a couple 100,000 or 1 million or 5 million, uh, your risk profile should really want to be where not only 0.1% of companies are going to make it.
yeah. No, I agree. And it's just about trying to get the right diversification of who's going to be that next one. I think, it's going to be interesting to see where these Tesla bots go and them having their AI built into them, because I do get that sort of feeling that we're looking at iRobot where Will Smith was the actor in it. I think, be interested to see whether or not we actually do have robots walking around doing manual tasks for us and how that then affects the sort of labor market as well.
Your kid and my kid are going to consider robots very normal by the time they're adults.
Yeah.
Right? I think, and speaking to just like how crazy is it? Like we speak to our devices.
Yeah.
Like
You're
how,
saying
like
that
when
you're saying that your mum struggles with SMS. It's when we're old, we're going to be struggling working out the new bot and how to make sure it's taking the shopping out of the car.
this happens automatically. Take whatever, I think it's 40 or 45, something like that. You cross that age, you don't know how to operate it. Just like
Yeah.
I rented an Audi from an airport, yeah, and I got into the Audi and it doesn't have any buttons. Yeah? It took me 15 minutes to turn it on. Like where it how does this how like by the time I was furious, and then I had just started giggling to myself because I was like, this is I am having my first senior moment, and I'm not that old, but
Yeah, it gets scary when you start sitting there going, I just don't get it. I really struggled with TikTok and been like, I don't understand why you'd want to do a dance in front of a phone and upload it. I don't get it. And now everybody's doing it, and you're like, it's crazy. Businesses are like, we need to post more on TikTok. I'm like, why? Why? I don't get it. It's going to be an interesting time, that's for sure, of how this develops. And I think overall, keeping tabs on it's really interesting. I'm just
they
conscious of.
wanted to know yeah, one last thing. On TikTok, they wanted to know when computers have taken over. I don't know, hasn't it already happened? Why are like millions of people doing funny dances for a computer screen?
Honestly, Philip, it's been absolutely great having you on the podcast, and I hope everybody listening, if you've enjoyed the conversation, I think we've covered quite a lot from finance, investing to what does AI look like and how it's going to affect us going forward. So, yeah, please do tune into one of the next episodes. Thanks so much for joining us, Philip.
Thanks for having me, Samuel. Pleasure.